Thank you very much. Is it okay if I don't use a microphone? Can you hear me? Okay, awesome. I always get stuck in feedback loops with microphones, and that's never good. So thank you for having me here. I mean, it is a great joy as a professor to be able to come and chat with students and friends and talk about things that are meaningful, especially over beer or wings or quesadillas. We don't always get that opportunity in the classroom. I am practicing Catholic, pretty much have been all my life, as is my wife, and I do teach philosophy, theology, and religion. So obviously, I think these things go together, right? I don't see a great divide between them. But in my particular research, I study the ancient church, the fathers of the church, we call them the Patristics. And Lily had asked specifically if I would kind of pay attention to faith in the early church or something like that, which turns out to be a fundamentally awesome question for this reason. It's simply not an issue. So I remember I was teaching at Emory, where I did my doctoral study, and Emory's a Methodist school, and I was teaching in a Protestant seminary, and they let me teach an early Christianity class, and on the goal for the class was discuss the importance of faith for the early Christians. And you could tell it was totally written by this fundamentalist. Obviously this is faith versus reason, and we just want everyone to see how the fathers had pure faith and just denounce the pagans who had pure reason. And nothing could be farther from the truth. So that was fun. And so is tonight fun. Part of the reason I think that it's not an issue for the fathers is that they're all dealing essentially with Plato's terminology. And maybe it's not just Plato's, but Plato's an easy point to look at, right? An easy figure if you want to know kind of what a father of Greek thought has to say. So I reproduced just a quick little paragraph there for you from Plato's Republic. You'll remember Plato is one of the key philosophers in the history of Western philosophy in the world. He's like a direct disciple of Socrates, follows Socrates around, watches Socrates get into all of these arguments with people. Socrates was famous just for asking you, what do you mean by that? And proving that you didn't know what you were talking about, right? So Plato keeps that tradition, but then Plato has some definite ideas. And so as it gets farther away from Socrates' death, Plato's kind of advancing some things that look to be his own theses, his own theories. And Plato has a very, sometimes difficult to grasp, but basic, plain and simple idea. There is more to the world than meets the eye, right? So if I want to explain the world from Plato's point of view, I have to have more in my tool bag of explanations than just the physical material little bits. And if I don't, Plato says I'm going to be missing a whole number of things. Are there extra handouts over that way? Yeah. Sweet. Thanks. I know you guys like studying together, but this might be helpful.
Thank you.
All right, so Plato's got questions like, well, where does truth lie, right? Is truth in the physical thing, or might truth be somewhere else? And of course you know the answer. Well, there's somewhere else, right? There's immaterial things. And in fact, that immaterial stuff turns out to be more real, more true, more definite than the material things. Material things change, they break, they fall apart. That's not where permanence lies. That can't be where truth lies. It's got to lie in something which doesn't break, which doesn't change, right? So Plato starts to get ends of a spectrum, almost even two tiers, right? The stuff down here that we see that's in flux, that changes, that's messy, that's not the real thing. Now, before you go thinking that I'm just completely nuts and no one talks like this these days, every one of you women is going to melt if I say, he loves you for who you are, not for the color of your hair. Because the color of your hair changes, especially if you're a 19-year-old in my class. I write down in my notes all the time, like the blonde girl that sits to the right. And then a week later, I'm like, where the hell is the blonde girl that sits to my right? She's the redhead who sits to my right now. Oh, okay. The girl with all the earrings. At any rate, you get the point. We still talk like this today, right? There's more to me than just my amazingly sexy, ruggedly handsome body, right? And that's not going to change much. You can tell I do a ton to keep it up, right? But even as it does, my wife has already promised that she will love me for who I am, for my my platonic self, right? That ideal. All right. So what does all this have to do with faith? Well, turns out faith is just low-level knowledge on that scale of the kinds of things I can know, right? There's true, absolute, certain knowledge. That's when I know it beyond a shadow of a doubt. I can prove it all the time. Then there's other things where it's sort of like I'm guessing and checking, right? We still talk like this today. How late is Papa John's open? But you believe it's open till 12, don't you? Right? You see that? I don't know, but I believe, I think, I sort of, right? How many of you work in a romance language, like a modern romance language? Spanish, French, Italian, right? Any of these thinking, believing verbs can take a plus the subjunctive, which indicates doubt, or a plus the indicative, which indicates more certainty. Do you see what I'm saying? We still use believe to mean a low-level knowledge. How did you do on Dr. Humphries' quiz today? No clue. Hope I did well. That we're even out of belief there, right? No. People say, I believe I did well. I think I did, right? All right. Notice then, is there any chance for opposition between knowledge and faith? No. Faith just turns out to be weak knowledge. Do you see what I'm saying? Plato places it in the realm of opinion. And you can have better formed opinions and worse formed opinions. You can have true opinions. You can get lucky. The answer to the question was C, right? I couldn't prove it to you, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's C, right? Or you could have the absolute certain knowledge. Ask me that question anytime in any language, and I will always tell you the answer to that question is Augustine of Hippo, whether he's A, B, or C on the multiple choice test, right? All right. That was an inside joke because someone was giving a quiz that involved Augustine the other day and no one knew who Augustine was. There's no opposition between faith and reason in the ancient world because faith is a kind of reason. It's just a low-level reason. If there's any opposition, it's more like, hey, why are you so stupid that you're just stuck in the realm of faith? Can't I get you into a level of certainty, right? Can I teach you how to think better? Now, St. Paul, comes along. Paul messes everything up for everyone, right? He's a game changer in any theory you have about the way the world should work. Paul attaches faith, the exact same term that Plato was using in Greek. Paul attaches faith, piston, to salvation. That's a real problem. I'm saved by having a poorly formed opinion about God. What would that have to do with righteousness? How would that have to do with fulfilling the law? Are you just saying the stupid guys get into heaven? What is Paul talking about, right? Think about this. For those of you who like looking at the Greek translation or edition of the Old Testament, the Septuagint, there's no single Hebrew term that gets translated into Greek as faith. It's not this active concept in the Old Testament like we make it later. So you don't even have a heritage for Paul to be looking back and saying, certainly the ancient Jews were talking about, I will have faith. Nope. They were talking about, I will be faithful. What does being faithful mean? Could involve already knowing it. What else does it mean? I'm faithful to my wife.
Fidelity.
Which is just the Latin root faith, fides, right?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
Well, in my opinion, to persevere in faith, to keep it over a long period of time.
Loyalty.
Yeah.
Cast my lot with this woman, not go anywhere else. This is the team to which I belong, right? I'll remain focused here. I'll be faithful. That's what God asks of the Old Testament people. covenant loyalty. You will be my people, I will be your God. We will have this relationship, right, in which we're playing for the same team. We're casting our lot here today. All right, so Paul is drawing on some sensibility of we'll have a relationship that will keep us together. But he's using a term which any educated person knows means poorly formed idea. Right? This is a problem. What do the church fathers do with it? I know you don't know. That's why I'm giving this talk. If you already knew, nobody would have asked the patrologist to come down and talk about faith in the fathers. Well, they keep faith meaning a low order kind of knowledge. But they observe another thing that Paul has told us. Faith is part of a trio. Faith works alongside, is completed by hope and charity, or hope and love. And Paul even tells us the greatest of these ain't faith, right? Mm-hmm. It's love. Now, how do you love someone if you don't know that person? Not very well, right? It's impossible. So this raises another question. Do you know God? Well, if we're talking about the immutable, eternal, everlasting God who's mysteriously Trinity, pretty much all of us have to say, nope, I don't know God. Right? At least I don't have any certain knowledge of God. Right? I don't have the same relationship with knowing God as I do to, like, I'm pretty sure 2 + 2 is 4, and that works in most systems except for large values of 2. But there are large values of 2. Lily's laughing like there aren't such things. There are. All right.
We'll talk.
Okay. 2.4 plus 2.4.
There you go.
You would round 2.4 to 2, or you'd round 2.4 plus 2.4 is 4.8 to 5. I'm not just making shit up. All right. Back on track. Are you allowed to cuss at USF? At St. Leo, you can cuss.
Yes.
Okay, theologians can. Okay, we live by blessings and curses. So I have got my card, an entire degree. You notice this question if you are an early Christian. I'm commanded to love God. But that looks impossible because I'm not sure that I know God. So what do I get? Paul tells me. I get this gift for free. I get just enough knowledge of God that I can start loving Him. Love begets its own knowledge, right? To know someone in that biblical sense, to love someone, to know someone deeply, fulfills what's lacking in faith as a low-order knowledge. So flip your page over. You've got Augustine saying it to you directly. What is love? Well, love just turns out to be enough of a modicum of knowledge that you can legitimately love God. And once you love God, then you're off to the races. And then Paul makes sense. You're going to be made right with the law because God's going to give you a gift which is going to enable you to do what?
Love.
To love God. And where is the law fulfilled? How is the law fulfilled?
Love.
Is Lily the only one who knows this? Right? The law is fulfilled in love. Do you see how this solves the problem? It's magnificent. Notice what else it does. For your average church father, long-bearded guy, right? You know, doing all this theology. There's no opposition between faith and reason. There may be tension. There's things to work out. But they're not diametrically opposed, right? Faith is not something that the loony bin handles, right? It's not, yeah, I know 2 + 2 is normally 4, but I'm signing on the dotted line at 6 because I'm a Christian, right? It's not check your mind at the door. It's, no. I've got an inkling of some truth which is far greater than anything we've ever known. That's just enough for me to love that truth. It's just enough for me to step out and enter a real relationship with that God. Right? Handles neatly all the Old Testament stuff, all the stuff Paul's talking about. Boom, you can move along. Now, fast forward 1,000, 1,200 years, and we get a new definition of faith. Right? We get the understanding of faith that we all deal with. I don't know where y'all grew up. It's not important to my next point. I grew up in Arkansas, the buckle of the Bible Belt. Right? Can I tell you how many times I was asked if I believed and had accepted Jesus as my personal Lord and Savior? That's like the opening line of the conversation. You don't even know someone's name, right? That's it. That's the question. And if you try to follow that with, no, dude, I'm going to school to study science, it's like, right? There's no chance that a good scientist could be a good Christian. Because faith means, in that context, check your mind at the door. Right? No other rationality could follow. Or at least if it does, the rules of that game are find random verses in the Bible and spout them in some order. Right? I mean, it's a different kind of way to make an argument, rationality, and you can't engage anything else in the outside world. Nothing could be farther from the way your average church father addresses that. But notice what else this Catholic understanding of faith means for us. You are having a crisis of faith. You are not sure if you believe. So what? The question for Augustine is, do you have enough faith to love? Because the whole point of faith in the beginning was never to be perfect knowledge. It was never to solve all the questions. The whole point of faith was for God to give you just enough understanding of Him to get hope and love moving. You very well might be at a point in your life when you've reached this early stage of the church, when you're able to say, and I'm not saying you don't have genuine crises of faith, I'm saying you very well might have reached a point in your faith when the point of your faith is that you have just enough of it to love. Maybe it's time to shift gears and move to the next virtue. Happy to take questions. Does the beer rule work here? I have to answer questions as long as there's beer in the bottom?
Are you out?
Is that I'm close?
King.
Father?
Something we've been spending time with at the Catholic Center is Saint Teresa of